Jim, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining me this morning.
Thanks, John. Glad to be with you.
How are you doing? You guys staying healthy out there?
Yeah, hanging in there with this pandemic. It's a little crazy, but adapting to the change over the last 8 weeks. But hanging in there. Everyone's safe and healthy.
That's good. That's good to hear. Are you getting a little stir crazy?
Yeah, a little stir crazy, and I've adopted a new occupation of being a homeschool teacher as well. So that's I guess I'm gaining some experience through this pandemic, but learning how to adapt. Get some exercise, clear the mind a little bit.
Well, if our industry isn't stressful enough, now you have to take on the role as a teacher as well. So I'm sure that's something you were just welcoming, hoping you can do one day. So we're going to be talking today about NYSSIU, which is you're the president of. It's an organization out in New York. So what's your professional background and what is NYSSIU?
Okay. All right. So a little bit about myself. I started back in the insurance industry back in 1989. Started out as doing property damage claims. Around 1991 or so, I got the opportunity of getting into SIU, which at the time I didn't even know what it was. You looked at the description and it said, insurance investigations and so forth, and it sounded real exciting. So I did that for a couple of years, and then got cross-trained back into the liability claims area, probably up to like 1998 or so. Was doing that for about 6 years. Got back into SIU probably about 2000 or so. Got into management a little bit there in SIU management. Then I got into some analytics in around 2006 area, and then around 2011 I got into where I am at Farmers, which I do national cases, medical organized ring type of investigations with farmers.
Mm-hmm. So how'd you get involved with NYSSIU, and what was your first role, and how'd you become president?
Yeah, so that was interesting. So back in around, I'd say 2006 or so, I became a part of NYSSIU based on actually the prior president, Mike Skiba, who many people know as Dr. Freud. Mike got me involved, and I was more just a member at the time. Then I got involved with the board, being a member of the board of directors. Then Mike asked me to be a treasurer. And then I think in 2016, Mike appointed me to be president of the chapter, and there I am today. So almost going in the 4th year. So
what's the goal or mission for this organization?
Our main goal, and just to backtrack a little bit, we started back in 1997. So we've been around for almost 23 years. So, that's something to be proud of. Our main mission is really to provide education and training to just all our members, our regular members, which could be, insurance fraud investigators, to state and government agency investigators, to anyone in our law enforcement community, and then also to our supporting sponsors and partners. So, and there we conduct a couple of meetings a year. We used to do 4 meetings a year. We cut that back to 3 live meetings a year throughout the state of New York. We have 2 upstate, 1 downstate. And then this past year in 2018, we did away with one of our live meetings, and we went to try to adapt some new technology to start reaching more of people, more of the desktop, desktop investigators, analysts, that maybe can't get to live meetings. So we started doing three live webinars a year last year, and really was a big success. Didn't know how it was going to go. And we probably reached about 100 and 110 per session. So that was an extra 300 people that I figured couldn't get to our meetings because maybe company expenses, budgets, or so forth. So we adopted that last year, and then this year, we did the same thing. So we've integrated technology, but still wanting to do the live meetings. So we have probably about 350 members, give or take, every year. So
Didn't you just have a webinar for like a 3-hour webinar? Was the first one for an NYSSIU chapter?
Yes. So we due to the pandemic, we had a seminar scheduled end of March. So thinking that we didn't know what was going to happen with this pandemic, so we thought, okay, so we rescheduled with our venue to early May, thinking maybe it was going to be over by then, and it wasn't. And as a board, we had to make a very difficult decision, but obviously the right one, based on safety and also based on what the state law was. You couldn't have a meeting over 50 people. So I wanted to continue to provide the training. So how did we do that? And then how do you keep people's attention? So I wanted to keep our chapter in front of people. So we looked at our agenda, which was 5 speakers, and we adapted it down to 3 speakers. And we did it through through the virtual platform, like we're speaking to.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, didn't know how it was going to go, because better than anybody, 1 hour versus 3 hours in a virtual platform, anything could go wrong. And so I said, but the bottom line was, the mission was to provide the education and training to the members, and that's what I wanted. And I wanted to keep our chapter always in the forefront. I always want to do either a live meeting or a webinar almost every month if we can. So John, we had a 3-hour virtual seminar last Wednesday. Great success. We had 110 people, and I have to say most of the people stayed on for the whole. It went over 3 hours and 15 minutes, and I think at the end we had maybe we had a couple people drop off, but I couldn't be more happier. Real good success. Not many audio technical issues. So I think it's something that we're going to have to look into into the future. But it was it was great. Everyone, and obviously most investigators need training hours, so we were able to provide 3 hours of training to really all our members, which was great.
Yeah, and it's good that you guys started doing it last year. So you already kind of had an idea on how to do it when this pandemic hit. So I mean, it seems like it kind of flowed well.
Right. Exactly. Yep. It did. It was so smooth, and the feedback we got was fantastic. It was so good to see the feedback, because I got all the feedback in the emails, and sometimes you only see you get the bad feedback. But I have to tell you, I didn't see anything. Everyone said it was smooth. The transition was smooth. And as the meeting organizer, I was a little nervous. I didn't want to let anything go wrong, but everything went so smooth. I really couldn't be happier. Everyone came together. People on the board. We had to obviously pivot pretty quickly. Because when we had to cancel the meeting, we had to find the speakers, and then NYSSIU was great because they were able to give us a platform to utilize. And so it was a turnaround that we had to do pretty quick. So we ended up getting 3 great speakers. NYSSIU was great providing a platform, and we didn't know how many people we were going to get, but in this environment when most people are at home working from home, I think it was a good opportunity to reach people, and I think that's why we probably had such a high turnout. And as I said, I couldn't be happier with that, which going forward we're going to have to look at that. So
your organization isn't just about claims and fraud and investigation. You've done a lot of charity work, and you've raised a lot of money for charity in the past couple of years. Can you talk more about that?
Sure. So back in, I guess, 2013, we have our last seminar of the year is in upstate New York at a Turning Stone Resort. So we've had it up there, and during one of the breaks, I was looking out at these two beautiful golf courses there and wondering why, we're not playing there. Like, why are we not playing golf here? So I guess in the back of my mind, I always wanted to do a charity golf outing, but obviously you got to have a reason, right, and a purpose. And I just at the time, went to Mike Skiva, and I said, listen, I want to, I think we could do a good thing here. We could do a charity golf outing. And so, he was all for it. And so 2014 was the first one, and obviously, you learn through your pains of planning a golf outing. I guess, maybe there is a planning book 101 on how to run a golf outing, but I don't think I got it back in 2014, but it was still, it was still a great success. It's now gone on, it's to 2020. So we're in our 7th year. It's started out small now, probably up to about 55, 65 golfers average, every year. It's at Turning Stone as well. And that's a big, that charity outing is very big for us because it provides the giving back portion, so maybe if I take a step back at the mission, of our organization, obviously it's giving back through education training, but through, the last 6 years, the giving back is also through the charity outing. And that's such an incredible thing that, the whole board, executive board, of the board of directors, and even our, even the members and the sponsors, we couldn't do it without everybody. And it's really just grown to something that's almost very self-sustaining at this point. There's a lot of planning involved, but we've given back, proud to say we've given back almost $40,000 to charity. And we have probably, from last year, we probably have another 8,000 to 10,000 to give out, in addition to that. That's just from what we've actually gave, to charities. And the charities we give to are, we take a lot of pride that we give to, some law enforcement give back because they're a big part of our partnership. So, some of them are like, the Widows and Children's Funds, NYPD, and Brotherhood for the Fallen, and we've donated to an arson dog to sponsor an arson dog, burn pods for some of the local fire departments, and then we do the community charities. So that could be anything. We try to pick a little different ones every year, but some of them people might know, like Tunnels to Towers, Foundation, the American Red Cross. Fisher House for the veterans, Samaritan's Purse, Wounded Warrior Project, something like that. So that's a big part. Those two parts are a very big part of our mission. As I said, education training, but, the giving back just came about just from the outing, and, you never know how the success was going to bring, but now it's just, been, you can't do it without, obviously, the support of the participants that give a lot during the outing, and the sponsors that are there. We could never give money back to the charities without, the sponsors. And, I couldn't be more proud of both our missions, of what we do. And it really drives us all, because obviously we're all volunteering in the organization, so I think that's what really drives us all, on the board and the volunteers. So it's such an important purpose of ours,
Yeah, that's a lot of money, especially you're not a national organization. You're a regional organization, so that's very impressive. And I'm sure you get a lot of good feedback, and when you're giving the money, to the charity and to the different charitable foundations.
You know what, John, I've never experienced, I guess, when you see on television, you see people like, giving back, doing their philanthropy and so forth. And I guess you could never understand. I give personally, obviously, to a lot of charities personally, but, to be able as an organization give a pretty significant amount, to a lot of these charities, and the incredible warm feedback you get. That's what drives you to just do it every year, because, it's a lot of work to run an outing. But I tell you, man, the feedback you get from some of these organizations that really rely on your contributions, that's really drives you. It drives me and everyone who volunteers for the outing, the board and everything. It's just, and I think that's why we just continue to do it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what are some benefits for a vendor like PhotoFax or other vendors that are out there to be part of the organization? And so why should we join?
Sure. So there, I like to say, because we have probably a good 60, we probably get 55 to 65 golfers every year. So, the way, let's say in the beginning, the way in the beginning, how I sold it was going to be exposure to, and it's a real wide variety of management, executives and not only the SIU and insurance community, but law enforcement in government entities. So the way I sold it was the exposure, that the exposure and the networking that the sponsors would get, by being there. And it's that integrating with people at the outing, through the breakfast in the beginning, and then lunch, and then the award ceremony. Everyone can interact and socialize with everyone, and that networking aspect to a vendor or a sponsor, to me, is what I sold it on, because they would meet people they normally wouldn't meet in a setting like that for hours at a time. And then I like to while I'm setting up the foursomes, I like to team the sponsors up with at least one other, it could be, one other company, one other, person that they might want to, speak to. So I try to do that, but, it's the networking, it's the sales, it's the marketing aspect. And a big thing, what I do is, throughout the year, I always will recognize the sponsors for their, for what they do, for what they give, because as I said, there's no way we would be able to give back, without them. So the day after, for example, that outing, we have our meeting the next day, and I go through and I spend the time and I recognize every single sponsor in front of our 150, 160 people that are at the fraud seminar the next day. And that's important. And I'll even bring that up at the webinar in the beginning of the year, and even in the spring meeting. So they're getting a lot of recognition from me, and it's not only a one-time thing. So I think that they could see a return on investment, and like I said, they can pick and choose and network while at the outing. And I think that's why we've had, actually, the biggest, which was the nicest thing for me, is that a lot of the sponsors are repeat. So they obviously see a value to it, and that's important. Like year by year, that's a challenge to always get sponsors.
Yeah.
And to have, when I ask them, now it just gets to the point that they just say, "Yep, we're in next year, we're in next year, we're next year." And for me, it makes me feel good, because it's not a hard sale for them to contribute at whatever level they're comfortable contributing to.
So on the flip side, for someone that's an investigator or an SIU, what's the benefits of being involved?
Almost similar, a little bit, to take away the sales aspect, but I think it's the networking, I think is such a key. The exposure that you get, either, being a part of the organization, or if you choose to be a part of the board or even the executive board, but let's say just a regular member. The education and training part is invaluable. You're going to get quality training. For I believe our membership is $20 a year, but they're getting 3 live meetings a year plus 3 webinars, so they're going to get real good quality training. And then it's just a part of, if they want to get involved more, they can get involved with committees. But I think it's really the networking aspect. It's expanding their network, getting involved, meeting new people. And it depends. They can make that choice about how much they want to get involved. They can get involved in committees on the board, or they could just go to our meetings and then meet. But they'll meet, an incredible amount of people that will expand their network, and maybe that, will lead to something else.
Yeah, and like you said earlier, not everybody is in the same field, so you learn a lot of different things that maybe you wouldn't if you didn't join. And that's how I
Right.
see it when I get involved in these things.
Right, and they do get access. I mean, the great thing about it is, and a big thing about mine is I'd like to bring in at all our meetings, even the speakers. We get external speakers, but we even get people from the government, within the state government, within some of the state fraud agencies like inspector generals and insurance fraud commissioners. So, people get, if they come and become members, they get access to see them. And even that's another contact, if you ever need to speak to people like that or people in their agencies. So I really try to mesh the law enforcement, government, insurance community, at all our meetings. So really, as I said, the value of the membership is really meeting all these people at some point in time, and you just never know when if they're gonna need your help or you're gonna need theirs. So it's a really nice kind of reciprocal relationship.
So how many members do you guys have?
About I'd say 350 or so, and out of that, probably maybe about 150 or so regular members. And regular members could be insurance fraud investigators, could be SIU analysts. Then we have associate members, which could be, law enforcement. And there we have a really good amount there, probably about a good 150. Now, law enforcement could be, any police type of agency, state police, fire department, arson. I mean, could anything governmental, insurance fraud bureaus, anything of that resort. And then our supporting partners, which would be, our sponsors, any sponsor. And most of the sponsors that we look are really sponsors that would add value to the organization and that work with our partners, work with all of our insurance, carriers. So we probably have, there are probably a good 50 or 60 supporting partners that, that are members year by year. And also, as I said, like I said before, all repeat, which is nice, which shows that, we're providing value to them and that they're getting value out of the organization and that they're also becoming sponsors at our events. So, yeah, it's probably about probably about 350 total, John.
So when we first talked about doing this, the idea was kind of to bring awareness of, the charity work that you guys have done, why it's beneficial to be a part of the organization. And then we ran into this pandemic. So obviously being the president of this organization in the epicenter of this pandemic, you've run into some issues. So, what struggles have you had in the last couple of months, just keeping this thing together and reaching your members?
Yeah, so that was a big, because everything is planning, right? So we had a webinar. We have a webinar always planned in March, and then actually February, and then we have a live seminar at the end of March, early April. So our webinar went out fine because obviously that was through technology, and then the pandemic hit. I guess really accelerated mid-March, and so that obviously was a tough decision because everything was all done. Our contract with our hotel was done, the food was done, the speakers are committed, everyone's ready to go. Even people have registered already. And this was the end of March. So we had a board meeting, had to convene the board pretty quickly. I think we all knew really what we needed to do, but we didn't know. In mid-March, we didn't know really where this was going to go. I mean, we thought, maybe it'll get done in 6-7 weeks. We just didn't know. So we all as a board thought, okay, let's cancel it and reschedule it. So we did to May 6th, I believe, was last week. So thinking May 6th was going to be fine. So we contacted our venue, and they were fine with it. Of course, we had, everyone had, the venue had all the hotel bookings. So we had to cancel all of those and cancel that food and all that kind of stuff. So we said, let's push it to May 6th, thinking May 6th was going to happen. And as we all know, it just was not, all the, the government, more so the government ordinances were in place. Plus the pandemic was just really not, was at its peak, really. So we had to make another decision, which was very, very tough. And say, well, what are we going to do now? We have all these speakers that are prepared. We obviously have a venue that we want to keep a good relationship with because the last 5 years we've had a great relationship with this hotel. So So we spoke to them and, made another date for next year. And we ended up asking and really discussing strategy and said, let's do the virtual webinar, and so we decided to, the time was a discussion. How long, do you do 1 hour? Do you do 3 hours? And I wanted to try to replicate it like our live seminar to make it seem like, okay, people are getting, not a whole day, but maybe a half a day. So, so that's what we did. So, we ended up securing 3 speakers and got that. And obviously, at the time it was a great opportunity that, that the parent organization of our chapter, ISSIU, was able to provide us with the GoTo webinar platform. And we were able to hold this meeting, which was last Wednesday. And I was, very happy to say it was fantastic, really, really good. Great feedback. 3 great speakers. Transition was great. Everything smooth. No technology issues. Everything went smooth. I mean, a lot of stress going in before because honestly, I've never even been on a 3-hour webinar, so I didn't know how that was going to go. We're going to keep people on it. Are we going to keep people's attention? That's always a concern. But we had to do it. I thought that was something we had to do for our members and really out of respect for the speakers who prepared so well for it. So, so we went down with the cut down version of 3 hours, and we started at 8:30 and went to about 11:45. It was still 3 hours of training. I did like a 15-minute intro, and it went really great, John. And it's something that, going forward, we're going to have to really explore, maybe a hybrid approach. I don't know, maybe having more of these webinars. I mean, we don't know what this new, the new normal is going to be. So, we're going to have to adapt. But, my biggest words to the board is we were able to pivot pretty quickly, and we were able to get on a call, make a decision, and we had to make the decision. And these aren't easy decisions to make. I always say that wasn't in my pay grade, because it was a tough call. It's a tough call, but it went really, really well. So, as a learning tool for maybe other chapter presidents, which I've shared, these virtual webinars are really a home run if we're still in this kind of setting. We don't know how long we'll be in it, but if we are, it's a great substitution. You're still providing that benefit. You're giving back with education and training, and you're giving value to your sponsors too, because we're thanking them in the beginning. So you're still giving it. I know it's not the same as in a setting where you're networking, but it's still providing that value. And I tell you, as I said, I could not have been more happier, with how it turned out, last week.
So with that being said, what are you thinking for the rest of the year? Do you think there will be any in-person meetings, or do you think this is how the new normal for 2020 is going to be?
That's a tough question. We're actually next week going to have, we have 2 scheduled meetings for the rest of the year. One in July, that's in West Point Military Academy. And then our meeting we discussed before in October at Turning Stone, which has our charity golf outing and then has our insurance fraud seminar. So the one in July is obviously a lot more pressing because we have to probably make a decision because of the cancellation procedures with the venue. So, I'm not feeling too confident about the one in July. I think we might have to go virtual, but I'm going to discuss it with the other members of the board. It's not just my decision, but knowing the way, and it's obviously also going to be according to what the state is going to allow. I mean, maybe they won't allow meetings of 50 people or more, so my decision is going to be already made, John. So that's going to be a big thing too. So we probably have to obviously abide by that first. Obviously, safety of our members is important, even though the networking is too. But we got to be one. We have to be aware of the surroundings too. We have to be aware of the safety of our members. And 3, you got to obviously abide by the government laws too. But I'm really hoping the one in October, by that point in time, is really going to go on. But July, the July discussion is going to be next week. So that will be something we'll have to make another tough call. As I said, we might have to do a quick pivot again. It's pivoting and adapting, and trying to just make it work,
So In 5 years from now, do you see things getting back to normal, or do you think it's going to be a hybrid, or are you not sure?
Uh, 5 years from now, God, I hope it's back to normal. I really do. Um, I hope it is. I mean, do you adapt? I mean, we could learn something from it. We could, maybe, do we need to do 3 live meetings? Maybe we don't. Maybe we do 2 live meetings. Maybe we have, maybe it's something based on, maybe based on at the time, whatever's going on in the climate and the surroundings, maybe we have less people at the meetings. I mean, instead of having 150, maybe we have 100. I don't know. That's going to be a tough call. And obviously, as long as, let's say, in the normal environment, everything is okay to hold the meeting. I think we could take some precautions. Maybe have more, hand sanitizer there. Maybe have some, have more things there that maybe will feel people. Because really, people have to feel comfortable coming to the meeting. So how, as an organization, how are we going to do that? Maybe, tell them, we'll have, we'll have sanitizer there. I mean, if some people feel more comfortable having masks there, maybe we'll provide masks. I mean, this is just something I'm thinking about on the fly. But, however, to make people feel comfortable to come back, if we have to adapt to that. But I certainly hope that we still can have the live meetings. I think there's a big value to that. I mean, the networking, like I said before, is so big. But, maybe it's going to be less people. Who knows? I mean, maybe we have the same amount of people, but we spread them out in 2 rooms, maybe, lessening the amount of people. You never know. Maybe we could have the same amount of people, but having them spread out and maybe having more technology, having multiple screens, where you can reach more people, but they're spread out. That's another idea I've had. I don't know where that's going to go, but, I think that's still good too. I mean, everyone can still feel comfortable, but, everyone can spread out. I mean, 150 people or so, I think, could spread out in 2 big ballrooms. I think you can probably do a pretty good job of that. But, it's just something I've been thinking of. But I think it's going to be probably a hybrid approach, which is something, as I said, we've already done as of last year. So, and this year we kind of got forced into it, but as I said, maybe we'll do that. We don't know. I mean, it went off pretty well. Maybe we'll, as I said, it's a pivot and adapting approach. I think the way the environment is the way we'll have to adapt. So.
Do you have any advice for other presidents of similar organizations, not just IAGIO, but just anything within the fraud-related industry?
I think being able to pivot and adapt is big, not being so concrete with your plans. But another big thing is just communicating. Communicate. If you have a board, obviously a lot of these are non-for-profits. So it's communicating with your board immediately. Like, I got right on the horn with our board and said, this is our situation. What do you think? And I think all of us kind of knew what we had to do, but, we all had to make that decision. So I think, communicating with your board, communicating with your executive board, your membership, obviously with the venue, because you want to keep a good relationship with your venue and your sponsors. I think communication is key in so many different fronts. So I would say that, and obviously the safety of your members is always important. So I would say, pivot and adapt. I'd say communicate with your members, your sponsors, your executive board. And just make sure, and your venue, because your venue is important. You want to establish a relationship with them, and just always make sure that the safety of your members are always paramount.
Well, I appreciate you joining us. Hopefully some people watch this and maybe, decide to reach out to you for more information to join the organization. And
Sure, yeah. So our website is www.nyssiu.org, and they can find out, anything, really everything about the organization that they want to join, sponsors want to join. They can find out everything about our organization. But, and I want to say also that, one last thing, and I failed to mention, is that, that's a lot of time, is a lot of volunteer time I do to not only NYSSIU, but also to IASU as well. And, that's that time in volunteering I never could do without the support of my company. So I do have to thank Farmers Insurance for allowing me to do that. I allot a lot of volunteer time to these organizations, and they allow me to do that. So I want to make sure I thank them for that, because it's a very big part, and it's important to them as well. So.
Well, I appreciate you joining us. Stay safe out there. I'm sure you and me will talk in the next few weeks, and hopefully we can play a round of golf soon and we don't have to stand 20 feet from each other.
Absolutely. Looking forward to that, John. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Really, really appreciated it. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And stay out of trouble, and let's talk soon.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you
Have a
very
good one,
much.
Jim.
Yeah, you too. Have a great day.